Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everyone's having a good day. Yesterday, I took myself a day because, well, nothing got dropped in my lap. Um, but this thing is a lingering issue, so I'm still in recovery, as you can probably hear. So I'll have a couple of days where it's fine, and then a couple of days where my voice is gone again. So I almost feel like I'm in puberty. One day it'll be up in the regular range and then it'll drop all the way to the basement. I don't know what to make of it myself, so it is what it is. But to end this week, to end this week, there has been something that has been bugging me, and it has been bugging me for a while. But it's only been bugging me because it has become such a hot topic for people. And it might just be because he's trying to highlight God. I mean, trying to highlight this for me. But there have been a growing number of people. I'm not saying that the number hasn't always been this prevalent, but coming more to the forefront, being heard, of people who put a caveat on God. So they'll say, if God is, why is, the if and why business. And it made me think about something, and I went looking for an answer. So I encountered a couple of videos I wanted to show you guys. And these videos will succinctly wrap up what they think. And then we'll talk about what they think in comparison to where they are. Okay. So, the very first one I want you to watch and listen to, but more so, I want you to listen to this because the um the theory, well, it's an interesting one to say the least. So, just listen carefully and y'all can tell me what you think about the theory. Ready? Here we go.
If God is willing to destroy evil, but unable, he is not omniscient. If he is able to destroy evil, but not willing, then he is malevolent. If he is both willing and able, then whence cometh evil? And if he is neither willing nor able, why call him God?
Okay. So you've heard that. You understand it now. Um, so let's break that first one down, okay? Because it is kind of the spine to their belief system. It really is. It kind of inculcates all that they believe. If God is omniscient and he doesn't destroy evil, then he's malevolent. So they have this concept of God that he could, but he doesn't, or he can't, which means he's not God at all. They're assuming two things: that God has not conquered evil, and they assume that man would just fall in line had he conquered evil. Now, what they don't want to admit is that while he has conquered evil and that he has given you a path to avoid the consequence of evil, they don't want the responsibility of what they themselves do outside of what he's done. You see, him conquering evil is easy. Him avoiding evil is easy. Mankind doing it, whole nother kettle of fish. So let's act. This might be tough for some of you. So let's pretend that there is no God. Let's pretend that your theory that you've come up with has officially ended the idea of God, that there is no God. If mankind is good, why don't they eradicate evil? If mankind is all there is, why don't they eradicate evil? And if they are able to eradicate evil, why don't they? If mankind can cure cancer, why don't they? You see, you put this caveat on God because you do honestly know what the theory is about him, right? That he is all powerful, unmade, uncreated, full blown power. You say he created man, and yet still he created man knowing man would do something and allowed it to happen. You're mad at that. But then when everyone who says they're Christian puts all their faith, belief, and work in his hand and relinquishes their free will to his desire, that is indoctrination. Meanwhile, you're asking God to do the exact same thing for you by eradicating your choice to do evil by removing the option for it. Make, please make that make sense. So you want the life of a Christian. You just want the life of the Christian before God, but you want to maintain the actions of someone who's not before God. You see, you want them the all powerful, all good God, but not what constitutes good by his standard. You want what constitutes good by your standard and hope that he accepts it, which already negates his all good and all powerful nature. What you really want is the roles to be reversed. You want to be God and you want him to bow to your desire. That's what you really want. You have no desire for God to be God. You see, for Jordan Peterson was a very pivotal part of my journey when it came to philosophy and the hubris of man and the mindset that men have. Okay, it's crazy, but here's what he said one time, that men should be dangerous. A dangerous man is not one who is peaceful. A dangerous man is one who knows what violence is about and maintains the line between violence and peace. A man who just says he wants peace but is incapable of violence has no merit to his peacekeeping. He has no merit at all because he does not know what it's like to be violent. The merit in him staying calm has zero reasoning because he has nothing to fall back on to be violent. But a violent man being peaceful is a man that can really attain peace because he knows what it's like to be violent. And his merit lies in his ability to suppress the violent nature within him. You see, what people want is a docile God. They want such a docile God that he maintains the title of it, but doesn't have any of the prerequisites of mankind to be God over them. So they're not really looking for God. They're looking for a statue. What they're really looking for is like a scapegoat. They're looking for a scapegoat. Now, y'all heard this guy before, and I just want you to be patient with him. The same nature that I talk to people about I just mentioned about the man being violent and suppressing the violent nature to be calm is the test of a true man. I think that when it comes to intelligence, there is also a close correlation. You see, with people like the one you're going to hear, it's almost as though their intelligence is based in stupidity, and they know better, but in order to come across as though they are intelligent, they feign stupidity. Does that make any sense? I hope it does, because that's the best way I can describe what you're going to hear. Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. So listen carefully.
Do you believe in God?
Me,
A creator?
yeah. So I'm the more I look at the universe, just the less convinced I am that there is something benevolent going on. So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all powerful
Mm-hmm.
and all good,
Mm-hmm.
that's not an uncommon pairing of powers that you might describe to a creator. All powerful and all good. And I look at disasters that
Mm-hmm.
afflict Earth and
Mhm.
life on Earth, volcanoes,
Mhm.
hurricanes,
Mhm.
tornadoes,
Mhm.
earthquakes,
Mhm.
disease,
Mhm.
pestilence,
Mhm.
congenital birth defects.
Mhm.
You look at this list of ways that life is made miserable
Mhm.
on Earth by natural causes.
Pause right there. Life is made miserable by natural causes. Okay. I am not as schooled as Neil, and people can easily watch my content and say that I'm a dummy. They can easily watch my content and say I'm not smart and I am an unintelligent human being and I don't know what I'm talking about. And I can easily tell you that you might be 100% correct. But in that being correct, please show me where I'm being stupid and wrong, and then we can go forward. So let's talk about the natural causes, shall we? You see, Neil wouldn't have a job, much less intelligence, had God done what he wants God to do. There'd be nothing to investigate, there'd be nothing to encounter, there'd be nothing to discover, there'd be nothing to know. Wisdom itself would be null and void. Because for God to be what they want him to be, to eradicate all suffering, to eradicate all problems, all natural disasters, make everything perfect, would eradicate the need for ingenuity, which is where Neil has made his bread and butter. Ingenuity. Discovery would be out the window. Regular intelligence would be out the window. But then, if he removed all of it, you wouldn't have a question, right? That's your point. There'd be no question about what you're doing. Everything would be laid out bare for you. Yet still, they have the same concept about children that they should make their own choices. You, you see the irony here. They want a God that will remove the choice of good and evil, but they want children to be able to pick what they consider good and evil. I don't understand which one you want then. Because when we tell children something about God and his nature, and that what he requires of us is indeed a whole new life, and we ask them to choose God, we're indoctrinating our kids. And when we leave our children to pick and they pick the world, that's freedom. But then you look at God and you say, well, we don't need to choose him. He needs to do what he has to do for us to get us happy and make us feel fine and get rid of our suffering. And that's not indoctrination by God. It almost seems as though as you have a double standard, one for mankind and one for God. But if you don't believe in God, then you yourself are by nature and default the next one up. And if there is no God, why don't you stop the things that you would have normally accused God of allowing? If there is no God, why has man not stopped any of the stupid stuff that goes on? If there is no good, no evil, just no God, no plumb line for it, man just makes it up. Why is mankind the way it is? Why? Why? But don't tell me you don't have an answer for that.
And I just ask, how do you deal with that? So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all powerful or not all good. I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. If that shows up, we're good to go. Okay?
Are you good to go? Here's my question. Are you good to go? Say, I'm going to take your trend of thought. If in all of your probings, you discover a bearded man, I don't know what they got this concept from a bearded man from, but okay, you encountered a bearded man, call him God. Then we're good to go? What if you run into this bearded man and you are no good to stand before him, and the instant you bump into him, he smites you dead? You're good to go. You see, here's the problem. You've already encountered the bearded man. The bearded man has some very specific ways to live that he requires of you. And you are by proxy saying, nah, I don't want to live like that. So there is no bearded man. You see where I'm telling you that he feigns intelligence, or he either feigns stupidity. One of the two, the same way he say he can't be all good and all powerful. You can't be all intelligent and be this stupid. There is no way you can be so intelligent that you're counted as one of the most intelligent men on earth and still be this daft. There is no way. No way. So one of the two has to be true, right? If I were to put all the theory you have of God on you, I would have to conclude one of two things. You are either very smart and lying or very dumb and lying. Either way, you're lying. The same way you can say either way God doesn't exist, I can say either way you are lying. You're lying about your intelligence or you're lying about your stupidity, which by default makes you stupid, not intelligent. The same way you came to the conclusion that God does not exist, the all good concept of God has always taken up the definition of man's idea of good. Good to man means allowing me to do whatever I want with no consequence. That's good to man. That is what man considers good. That is what man considers good. Allow me to do something that I want to do without the consequence of anything. That's good. Allow me to be promiscuous, be a killer, abort babies, hate people, murder, slander, lie, and give me no consequence for it. Allow me to do anything I want, and you need to call it good. However, if the instant God decides, no, I don't consider that good, and since I'm the all powerful one, then I get to decide what's good and evil. You are not God, they'll say, because a God wouldn't let me. Let me reply to my mother here real quick. This is the biggest problem with atheists and stupid people. I have to call them stupid because the fool says in his heart there is no God. And if God can call you a fool, stupid is the weakest word I can call you. Stupid is the weakest of the words I can call you because my God called you a fool. People like Neil deGrasse and all the other so-called atheists are seeking to discredit God because they consider what they're doing acceptable. And they do not like the concept of something or someone negating them. They don't, because they believe they're bigger. For all intents and purposes, mankind, when they talk about what God can and doesn't do and has to do for them, you are by essence dictating yourself as God. You change the definition of good and evil in exchange for what you consider good and evil. But you still cannot tell me why something is good and why something is evil. No, she's fine. She just she forgot that I was going live because I've been semi-sporadic. And she's feeling better too, by the way. Mankind is a weird, and you want God to govern you in all of your fickle behavior? There's a reason why we are called children. There is a reason why we're called children of God and not adults of God. We're called children of God for a very specific reason. And if people were smart, if they really were to engage in critical stuff, there is something to be observed about children and how they interact, not just with each other, but with adults. We are children of God because we need a guardian. We need growing. We need coaxing sometimes. Sometimes we just need a hand on us because we are prone to do some of the most ridiculously stupid stuff. But at the same time, when you raise a kid, you don't just absolve them of all things. You don't just remove everything. You don't leave them in a rubber room strapped down and say, don't move. Because then they never learn to walk. They never learn to run. Their skin never toughens. Their bones become brittle. They die young. He even gives you an example in real life what parenting is like to tell you that in life, the Christian walk, calling you a child, there are certain things that need to take place to grow you. You fall on your knees and you scuff it up. And before too long, the falling doesn't become habitual. The falling becomes a way for your muscles to stabilize you. The current iteration of Christianity is that you remain a 1 month, 5 month, 8-month-year-old where you're barely moving around. You're always crawling. You're a stone's throw away from becoming a turtle laying on your back and can't get up. Some mature to the 1-year-old phase where you can actually walk sometimes and you constantly keep falling, fall. And you're always looking for mom to come pick you up and brush off your bruises. Not many of us make it to the teenage years where we can run and comb our hair at the same time, and we can run and play football and kick the ball and throw the ball and slam dunk the ball. We don't get to that point where we can sit up in our seat and eat our food. We don't get to drink out of a cup that is big enough for a hand. We don't get to do any of that because we never progressed past 2 years old. Having a child will show you why God is all good and all powerful. Because a good father will allow his children to experience life when he does not have his hand on them. You ever notice that when a child gets old, most, not all, they still long for relationship with their parents? In fact, they become friends. The dynamic of the lordship over them is still there, because I will never, ever relinquish the fact that my mother is my mother. I can't get rid of that. She's my mom. She will always be older than me. She'll always be wiser than me. And she'll always have authority over me. That will never change. Otherwise, I'll be a rebellious son. But as time goes on, our conversation changes. What we talk about changes. How we talk to each other changes. Our understanding of each other changes. But the respect is still there. The hierarchy is still there. With God, it is the exact same way. When you were a child, you spoke as a child. And when you became a man, you put away childish things, which is like what? People consider childish things the things you used to eat and the fact that you had to depend on him all the time. Here's the other part of things changing. You can now go to the fridge and get the food. You know who supplies the food in the fridge still? Dad does. You can go to the kitchen and make yourself a meal based on the ingredients that your father bought. You can put on the clothes that he gave you. You can dress yourself this time. The thing about it is this. Man doesn't want God. They don't. We are that tantrum throwing 2-year-old when God doesn't want us to have sugar before bed, or he doesn't want you staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning watching TV, or he wants you to get up early in the morning to set a routine for yourself. They don't want that. They want the grandparent that will send them back to the mom's house, sugared up, coffee, toys, games, stay up late. And then the parent has to deal with the fallout come Monday morning of trying to wake you up for school because you're in a sugar coma from the night before. Mankind wants a version of God that's akin to that grandparent. They don't want the mother then waking them up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get dressed for school. That's a bad parent. I just want to sleep. Now, mind you, the parent is all good and all powerful, because the parent will just go get some cold water and soak your behind in your bed till you fly up out of that bed. And you consider that parenting bad parenting. You could have just let me sleep. Why do I have to go to school? And the good parent will look in your eye and say, because you have stuff to do, get up. So if God is, why is he? Might be your question. But you already know the answer. I've always been a big fan of The Matrix. Okay. Say what you want about the directors. But the premise of the movie whether they designed it this way, meant for it to be this way, or whatever, it is a really good example of how mankind wants to interact with the world versus how the world interacts with them. So Neo goes to the oracle for the first time. And as he walks in the room, he says, "I'll be right with you." And she stops him at the door, and he's going through. How many of you remember these curtains, these little beaded curtains that you walk through and you hear? I used to love those curtains. I did play with them all the time. We had at least 2 in our house. These beaded curtains. Usually they're like a brown, transparent brown, translucent brown, and sometimes a little aqua blue. I haven't seen any other. Sometimes they have just the clear ones, but I like the brown ones. So he walks through these curtains. She says, "Hold on, I'll be right with you," because she's baking cookies. And in her conversation with her back turned to him, she says, "And don't worry about the vase." And he turns around behind him to say, "What vase?" And in his turning around, he knocks the vase over. And she says, "That vase." And he says, "I'm sorry." And she says, "I said, don't worry about it." Now, whether they know it or not, they just gave the perfect breakdown of God. I am not saying God is a oracle, and I'm not saying it's a light-skinned black woman. Okay, so don't get on me for. I'm talking about the interaction was very much man with God. Listen why. God already knows Neo. He already knows you. Before you break the curtain, he knows you. Before you break the curtain. So you walk into his room and he tells you, "Don't worry about what you're going to do next. I already know you're going to do it, and I've already forgiven you for it." And you turn around and you say, "What?" And you do it. And he says that. The same way he told Peter, "I know what you're going to do. I know what you're going to do." And then when it finally happens, they don't realize they gave a complete breakdown because they're regurgitating the same thing of history because it's the same thing of God. They don't realize it, or they do. And if they do, good for them. But if they don't, it's okay too. You want to know why God is all good, all powerful, and all fair? Because he is all of those things to himself. Man is of zero consequence in his nature. Man has now decided that they should be of more consequence than God. That the God of the universe needs to kowtow to their demands, being man and lesser, and not the lesser giving in to the larger. That's what man does not want. It is insane. But he is all good. He is all powerful. And he has indeed defeated sin, death, and evil. He has. It has a expiration date set up already. The instant Satan got cast, so was his fate sealed. I don't know what more evil you want him to conquer. You want to negate man's choice to continue in evil because God didn't stop them from choosing a side? But if he had chosen to stop everybody from picking sides and force them to follow him, then you would call him a dictator, but by then you wouldn't have an option for calling him anything. It's no different than if you force someone to love you by keeping them captive and brainwashing them. Are they really in love with you? Or did you set up a very specific way for them to never know what choice was? But when he gives you the choice, he's the bad guy. When he leaves you to pick between two things, he didn't give you enough choices. He needed to give you his way, that person's way. And there are, by the way, there is his way There's your way, full-on devil way, partial devil way. You have all kinds of choices. But you actually want him to remove your choice to prove that he's God. But if he had done that and you knew that that was something that he would do, it's dictatorship. When us Christians says, I don't want my will, I want his will, we are indoctrinated and we're crazy and stupid to follow something like that. Make up your mind. I wish you would just pick a struggle. Pick a struggle and stick with it. If you're an atheist, like I keep saying, run the gamut with scissors down the hall, clown. Go do it. Live your life like there is no God. Why are you so concerned about something that doesn't exist? Why? Why are you worried about an imaginary thing? How that's the definition of insane and stupid at the same time. At least Christians are concerned with something imaginary and stick to it. You look at our imaginary thing and say, well, there's nothing there. And then you keep trying to convince us that what we believe is crazy while you keep harping on it. We're not even talking to you about it. We have not even told you that you have to believe what we believe. We've told you you could or you don't. That's up to you. Your choice. But if you honestly believe there is no God, now we don't believe in make believe. We believe in a reality. To us, God is definitely 100 billion trillion % real because he is. But if you don't believe it and he is a fake and he's imaginary, you look more like the crazy person than we do. It'd be no different than me coming into an empty room with you alone standing in there and you're screaming at nothing. Why would you let this happen? Blue? And then I look at you. Who are you talking to? Well, there's a God people say exists, and if he did exist, he's not real because of this. Then if he ain't real, who are you talking to? Who are you blaming? Who are you asking for answers? Who are you trying to denounce? Who are you trying to hate? Who? You're by definition insane. You belong in a rubber room. If you genuinely believe that. And if you did, then go do your life, homie. Why are you here trying to talk to you to consider us crazy? Go, let us be crazy and leave us be. You be sane. But even in our crazy, even in our own crazy, we don't go to your house and force you to say he's real. If you don't believe, you don't believe. Look, I understand that there are people who want to try and force God on folks, and I don't mean in a bad way. I mean they just want people to follow, so they keep driving the point home, and they call themselves, like I keep saying, apologetics. I am more of the school of dusting off my feet after I've told you and be done with you. Because I'm not the one that saves you. I'm not the one that does it. I'm just supposed to plant the seed. That's all. You might show up to my podcast and I might be the one to water. That's all. You might come to the podcast and you might already encountered someone who planted the seed, did the watering, and I get to see a harvest of what they've done. But more so, I get to see of what God did through them. But my only chore is to tell you about it. And when God does what he does, it's on him. But the majority of these people know God exists. They are just not happy with who he is. And they want him to be what they want him to be, not just who he is. And they don't want to change who they are because of who he is. They don't want to be different because of who he is. They need him to change so they can keep doing what they're doing. And I have bad news for them. God don't play that game. He doesn't. So keep asking yourself the questions. Keep asking. If he's so good, why isn't he? If he's so, and if he's so, and if he's so, and if you are so smart, figure God out. If you are so smart, and if you are so good, you don't need God, stop talking about him. If you are so sane, stop talking about an imaginary thing. And if you are so good, remove all the ailments of this world that you say is natural to it, but all of a sudden you want a supernatural interaction with it to stop it. It's not his fault because you say it's natural. Or you could say it's his fault because he created it. Then if he created it, then you believe in God. But if he didn't create it, then it's your fault. How about that? If you believe that God created all the evil, then you believe in God. If you don't, then you are the one responsible for all the crap taking place in the world, and you should be held responsible. Pick one. Pick one. I guarantee you won't pick the last, though. You won't go and stop the things you know you can stop. You know what you're going to say? Some people are just evil. Some people just pick to be mean. Okay, how did they get that way? You can't answer that either. You can't tell me why. Remember, I asked about why. You can't tell me why selfishness exists. You can't tell me why. You can't tell me why hate exists. You can't tell me why violence exists. You can't tell me any of that stuff. I can tell it's because of the fall of man. I can tell it's because we originally were created to have the choice to love God. We chose not to. You have no answers for anything you believe. You're in limbo. And you hope by some good fortune that picking the right door will give you peace. Nah. But good luck with it. Good luck with it. I don't need you to believe in God. Nobody needs you to believe in God. Nobody has to force you to believe in God. If you don't believe in God, then you don't believe in God. I'm not even going to feel bad for you. That's your choice. That's your choice. The same way Pharaoh chose. Pharaoh had chance after chance after chance after chance, and he did not choose God. The consequence is the consequence. In either case, if you guys ever want to know how to deal with people that ask you that question, ask them one simple, rebut with a question, not with the answer, rebut with this simple question. Why hasn't mankind, if God doesn't exist, why hasn't mankind stopped what you say God should stop? If God doesn't exist, then why hasn't man stopped what mankind wants stopped? Ask them that and watch them squirm. Sit back and record it because it will be hilarious to see that the brain starts to fry and they start, but does not compute, ever. That's what's going to happen. It will be hilarious to watch it. Just ask them, why hasn't man stopped it then? If God doesn't exist, why is man? They'll have no answer for it. They really won't. Sparks flying, bolts popping off. blue screen of death on their screen and all kinds of stuff. Falling to the floor in compulsion. Fish out of water syndrome, man. It's crazy to watch it when you put that question before them. Funny stuff. In either case, people, look, you don't need to force God on nobody. You don't need to feel the need to constantly drive something home. If you love God, you told somebody about God, you continue loving God. Eventually, two things will start happening. They will see and change, see and don't change. And look, when he says a simple thing, it really is simple. You don't need to make it mucky. You don't need to stir the pot up. You don't need to act as though you need to do more. You don't need to learn every single translation of the book. You don't need to go back into ancient texts. You can do that if you want, but it's not necessary. God left his Holy Spirit for a purpose, to keep you until that day. He says it's easy. Choose ease. I'd much rather live his life than mine, because his life already has done it, been there, done that. I don't need to. It's already done. You don't want God? Okay, good. Move on. Leave us be. You don't believe it exists? Good. You move on. Let us be. You hate him? Perfect. Go on. Let him be. I don't see why you would continue to prod someone you hate. Why would you continue to question somebody you hate so much? Why at every turn you need to go find out more about him so you can hate him more? That seems like a big waste of time and energy to me. Like, I don't go around trying to call the people I hate all the time to tell them I hate you and then hang up, or see them on the road, I hate you, and then hang up. That's a waste of time. Or if I know they have friends, I go to their friends. You're friends with them. I hate you too. You stupid. I hate. You got that kind of time to waste? All right, well, waste it. Waste away. Literally. I'll tell you. In any case, Savage Patriots will be on today. We'll be talking about that shooting and the gun grab that's going to come inevitably about it. And then go watch Too Strong. We have quite a few videos up that you guys need to see. They're really good. We tackled a couple topics that for a live it wouldn't be the best option, but a response was needed. And then Monday we'll start on Mere Christianity. I've decided. So Mere Christianity starts Monday, and we'll go through Friday with it. And for people who say, well, that's not the Bible. I didn't say it was, and I didn't say we're going to talk about the Bible. We're talking about Mere Christianity because the book itself does deal with the Bible and does deal with God, just through philosophy. So, and like I keep saying, astute observation. So we'll talk about that Monday. And I am thinking about another thing too. I want to, let me see if I can find out which. Okay. So before you've heard us tackle the Book of Enoch, I think I'm going to start going through a bunch of these so-called books that were left out. Okay. And I can easily get the PDF and stuff, but I want to go through a couple of these. One is the Gospel of Peter, the lost Gospel of Peter that they talked about. I want to tackle the Gospel of the infancy of Jesus, and quite possibly the letter of Pilate to Herod. So I want to go through a bunch of these books that they say we're taking out of the Bible to see if anything in them contradicts, negates, or otherwise defiles the so-called Bible. They say was left out of the so-called Bible. Because I think people put such a emphasis on the fact that, we don't even know. Okay, then we'll find out. We'll do the same way we found out in Enoch, the book of Enoch. All it did was kind of elaborate on a couple of things that was already written in multiple books throughout the book. I mean, can you really remove something when it's still in there, just not with the title? If I took everything out of a car and left it there on the chair, and I gave you the empty car, and then I can say, well, there's the pile. Well, look, you took it out of the car. Yeah, okay, took it out of the car. It still doesn't negate the fact that it's part of the car. You can just go through it's right there. Just go read it and see if it fits with the car. And I bet you it will, just because it came out of the car. Just go read it. Try it. Anyway, so we'll talk about that the following week. And I'll pick out 5 and we'll go through each day and see what the difference is between them. Okay, good. So see you guys later today on Savage Patriots. I'm going to try and get a little more rest before then, if possible. More so for my voice. I need to rest that because I'll need it this weekend. So y'all have a good rest of the day. Scrolling at the bottom again, your options for assisting in what I'm doing here. Of course, by only one person's say so and power. I'm not doing this because I'm so amazing. That's far from it. People who know me know that's not what I think of myself. So y'all have a grand rest of the day. We'll see you at Savage Patriots. Love you guys. Mean it. Keep your head in the game because it's starting to become the true testing season for believers to find their faith and stick to God in spite of what's going on. Okay. Love you guys. Mean it. Have a grand rest of the day. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself and no way. Believe